Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Becky Plouts, and I'm joined by Miss Terry Ann, Coach for Change. Terry, thanks for joining the strategy hour in the community, which means that we get to have an open conversation around our theme for the month of July, which is Trust Journey. So welcome, Terry. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure always to have discussions with you.
Yay. We have great discussions.
Yeah.
And deep, which is it will be all those things with talking about trust journey, I am sure. And if you've listened to the podcast before, if you've tuned in before, you know that we love teaching with acronyms, especially on this strategy hour. I love acronyms, so I always just bring it to the table, which to help us kind of tie in our theme for the month and bring some different perspectives and hopefully an action step that we can take from the conversation around how we're living on purpose and the things that we're choosing in our life. So we're talking about trust journey. And of course, we're going to talk about the acronym of trust today. And, one of the things that we really focus on in the community is guiding us to be more present and to celebrate our wins, stay connected, and really give gratitude, share moments. These are parts of our principles and our teachings throughout the community that we work through. And the most important thing that I found is how important reflection is. So the T for trust is to take time for that reflection, which I know we talk about this so much. How important it is to take a pause, to be able to tune in to what we're putting our trust in and making sure that it is for ourselves, like we're trusting ourselves on our journey, and that we need to take that time to kind of slow down and make sure that we're being in alignment, which is the conversation we had last month, and they just continue to build on one another and really pay attention to looking at our experiences and understanding what is working, and what maybe didn't work as planned, but what did we learn from the process of doing those things and taking those actions and having that reflective time to just kind of share with yourself and be aware of, well, how did that go? Take a time to reflect and really pay attention to it. So take time for the reflection and just giving that pause. And my suggestion is to set aside just a few minutes each day to journal. On in the community pages that we have, it's what is a win? Tell us a victory. What would you improve? And what would your plan be to do it? Right? Like, how would you actually do the thing? Knowing that that's something you would like to improve in your life. So being able to ask a couple of simple questions to yourself, maybe it's, how did I grow today? Or what did I learn today? What did I love about the day? But practicing, getting that clarity for yourself in the moment to build trust in yourself that you're doing the best you can, right? You're doing these things that you're taking action on in a way to build that self-trust. That's the way that I look at it. So what do you think about reflection, taking that time for reflection, Terry, and how that helps you build self-trust?
Yeah. While you were talking, I was writing down a few things. And as soon as you said take time, I wrote down pause because that's something we've talked about a lot. And, pausing is really a norm that we can develop in our lives in many areas. Like in the area of communication, it's so important to pause. And certainly when you're reflecting, setting that specific time to pause and reflect, and whether that's journal writing or that's meditation or that's taking a walk, where you pause from, what you're doing, you pause from the hustle bustle of your daily life, and you take, I try to walk every day. I practice walking every day. And that's a really wonderful pause for me. I write in a journal every day. I record my gratitudes and I record my acknowledgments for the things that I've done on a daily basis. That's a pause that I've internalized. I just do it every day. And I think pausing gives you that I don't know if you can reflect while you're busy doing other things. I doubt that you can. Maybe people can. Maybe they can stop and really think about what just happened, or they can stop and really listen, so they can pause. But the pause itself is a break, right? So it's a break from the thing overthinking, or the sleeping is a pause. That's really important for us to take. I mean, so when you think of setting time and taking time, there's so many areas of your life where that can be effective. And so journaling, meditating, taking a walk, sleeping, self-care, pausing to take a shower. Sometimes we get so busy we don't do that. And so really taking time where we practice trusting, we were talking about earlier, trusting ourselves, trusting the process, trusting others, trusting our higher power. I think trust comes out of taking time and pausing to reflect. I think that builds trust.
Yeah.
Really internalizing and asking yourself those questions. Does this support me? This match my intentions and my alignment. Does this, if kindness is a component of your being, am I being kind? Pausing and asking yourself, and taking time to reflect leads to more alignment, which leads to more trust, I believe. I mean, that's just my rambling about that. I think pausing is super, super, super powerful.
Yeah, what I love about that too, Terry, is that you're giving a lot of examples that how it's integrated in our lives. However, right, it's about the intentionality that is so powerful. And like you said, can we really be reflective? Because reflective is a very specific word, can you be reflective while you're doing other things? I don't think reflection and doing go together.
I don't
like
either.
You said that.
I don't either. You have to have the pause. You have to have the pause. And I think you can do that.
Yes.
Especially when you're communicating with someone. You can take that pause, and it can really aid your connection with the other person, because it indicates you're listening.
Right.
And you can pause in order to really contemplate or reflect upon what's the best next thing to say. What can I ask? What's the best? I mean, in coaching, we do this all the time. We ask a question, and then we listen and we pause, and we accept that intuition or whatever the skills of coaching to ask the next question. But without that pause and reflection, it may not be as powerful as it could be.
Yeah, I love that. And that takes us into the R, which is recognize and celebrate the win. So, right, like once we've taken the time, and we've created this space, which is another thing that was really coming strongly into the conversation, is just, I'm thinking about going for a walk, and how you mentioned that as one of those things as well. How we can be in like an active meditation. We're not taking our phone, and when I'm not putting earbuds in, listening to a podcast, or, something like that, like listening to music, right? And I'm actively just out on a walk. The only thing that I need to do is put one foot in front of the other. And when I have that space to just let consciousness flow and like where I'm at, it is a reflective moment that when I choose to leave my phone behind and take that walk, I do use that as a opportunity to take time for reflection and recognize, okay, great, what is going well, and where do I want to improve? Like I go through those things even when I'm walking, that I find myself like that's definitely a tried and true part of when I'm actively choosing to, only be with my thoughts and my higher power and like what I want to think about, and asking myself some empowering questions. Do I see the wins? Do I give myself the space to trust the journey that I'm on and have an opportunity to see achievements, big and small, and continue to build that trust with the process. I love that. Actually, you mentioned trusting the process. And when you listed out and you said the process, I was like, I like thinking about a process as well. It is a journey for me, but there is a process that needs to happen, which is like creating the space in order to reflect and open yourself to those things. Because when I find that I don't, that's when it's too busy and it's cluttered and out of sorts, right? It's definitely out of alignment. And one of the things that I was going to share that this is not something I'm actively practicing, but it was a great idea that I've did in the past that I heard about putting, having like a win jar and being able to write down what's an achievement that I had for today, and then put them in a little jar. And then at the end of the month, that could be part of the reflection time, celebrating those wins, giving yourself the opportunity to, build that trust in a very tangible way. Could be writing a win on a note. And then at the end of the month, you take 5 minutes and read through them, even if you just sit with them for a couple of minutes in that reflection to recognize the wins, those opportunities that you had to trust yourself more on the month's journey.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And when you said recognize, what did you say? Recognize opportunities? Is that what you said?
So the R is recognize and celebrate wins. So, celebrate wins is one of the core, like the culture codes in the OP community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it just really ties in well with the understanding that we need to be able to recognize those small or big things that we're doing, and bring through the joy in that celebration.
Yeah. I think that awareness is always in my experience, the beginning is the awareness, recognizing and celebrating your wins, recognizing and recording your gratitudes, being aware of the opportunities that you have to reflect and then intentionally setting that time, because unfortunately, if you get busy, those are the first things that go out the window, so it's like
Yeah.
putting
Yes.
it into your daily non-negotiables is that time to recognize and reflect. And I know when I say my prayers, which is, my communication with my higher power, I always stay, in that position in silence in order to receive, which could be another R, to receive that recognition of the opportunity, or recognition of my next step. So I think trusting is also receiving, whether it's receiving your higher power, receiving the self-care that you give yourself, the time that you set, receiving. There's so much, at least in my life up until now, it's been easier for me to give than to receive. And so by writing acknowledgments or wins, whatever you want to call them, that is me receiving and recognizing that I had a win today because of the choice that I made. And I think that is really powerful as a part of reflecting. And you can see how it's starting to really tie together, is that pausing for the reflection, then setting up intentionally the time to reflect so that we can be aware of and recognize and celebrate those moments of reflection that come to us. And they're not going to come to us when we're busy. They're going to come to us when we're paused, when we've committed to that opportunity to listen.
Yeah.
To just
and they'll be there.
Yeah. Be and listen.
Yeah.
And so I find in my non-negotiables, that's a part of my daily prayer, is to receive inspiration, recognize that, and then act upon that. So that kind of goes down to the, what are the actions we can take in order to trust.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to that space and intentionally creating that.
Mhm.
And a lot of that for me goes back to knowing why it's important for us to trust ourselves and like take the next step. Which is ties into the you that I have for trust, is to understand your purpose, right? When we're understanding why, it becomes easier to navigate the challenges, navigate the celebrations, to not stay there too long, but to, give also, right, that recognition of why we're
Yeah.
doing these things, and remember um how it is for us, and it's for to help other people, and remember why we're staying committed to our goals,
That's another R. That's another R. Remember.
Yeah.
Was reading in Peaceful Living, which is a book that I think you also read. It's a little daily reminder of how to communicate effectively and compassionately.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about the why under your need, that if you can express that, and when you're having a relationship with someone, you're talking to someone, and you want them to do something, or you've become upset about something they did because you had an expectation about how it should be done, is asking, why do I want it done that way? Because I have a need. So what is that need? And can I express that need rather than blame that person for what happened? And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at compassionate communication. Is if I say to someone, you were going to do the dishes and the dishes are still here in the sink this morning, and it becomes, then they become defensive. If you would say, I really have a need. I have a need for a clean kitchen. And if you were you willing to clean up the kitchen when it's your responsibility before you go to bed? Because that's a need I have for getting up in the morning, to have a clean kitchen. It makes me feel so much better. Are you willing to accept that responsibility? Or I can accept that responsibility if you can't, if you're too tired or whatever. Let's talk about it so that my need can be fulfilled and your need can be fulfilled. And that makes a whole different conversation
Right.
around why, because your kids could get well, she's just nagging me to do the dishes because she doesn't want to do them or whatever, when the reality is that I feel better.
Yeah.
I'll be a much more interesting person to communicate with, and much more at ease and have grace when we're talking about things, if I recognize what's my need, what is the why underneath this behavior. And I think that kind of goes along with trusting that why. And that will make a better communication. I don't know. I think
love
think
that.
that's one of the underlying principles of that whole book, is knowing what your needs are, respecting other people's needs, and expressing your needs rather than telling them they're doing something wrong, that's affecting you. No, this is really about me and my need for whatever my need is. And are you willing to help meet that need? Or let's look at some other options.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Terry. You weren't in the conversation this morning, but I swear you were. I had brought that through. We were talking about self-love, and the conversation came around. I was folding some clothes and getting some things done in the discussion. And I said, I'm really doing this out of love for myself, because I'm tired of looking at my clean clothes in the laundry baskets. And I'm the one that's going to take the action right now. Right. Like, and to serve myself and love myself, it was like, I'm going to take 5 minutes and clear these baskets and free my mind from the burden of thinking, some other time, someone
Yeah,
else. It's
yeah,
me. It's
yeah.
me,
I love that. It took me a while to understand when I was younger and my kids were all home, and my house was always a mess, and I was always angry because
Mhm.
I didn't understand that my need for having order in my life gave me peace. I didn't understand
Right.
that. I just understood, oh, as a mom, I need to clean my house. And what if somebody comes over? I need to have a clean house. Well, blah, 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 those things, rather than what I really needed was the peace of walking into my house and things being in order. And that was and I didn't really understand that until I moved into a new place all by myself. And I
Mm,
recognized, oh my gosh, this is what I needed a long time ago. It was just a whole, anger isn't even a part of it. And it's not even a question. I mean, obviously, taking care of cleaning them for one person is easier than 7 people.
yes.
But at the same time, if I had understood that was my need, I would have more quickly taken care of things before they built up
Right.
to the point where I was so frustrated and angry that it made everybody miserable. And my communication was, you know, yeah. But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad I learned it. I'm glad I learned it. It's never too late.
That's right. Today is always a good day to learn something new and, go at it. And I love that because that book, and is it Mary McKenzie, I believe, is the
Yes.
author of
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
book that we're referring to. And yeah, it's a great tool for that peaceful living.
Yeah. 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 I
Um,
use it a lot with my clients, especially when I'm
do
working
you?
with a couple, because
Okay.
it always comes down to
Oh
communication.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you understand why you have that need, and you can express that to the other person. I mean, here's two people that love each other that can't get along. They can't, they're always agitated or defensive with each other and they're trying to love each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it really does go to being able to revisit, and be able to stay grounded in the core pieces of who we are in relationships, especially in the relationships that are close to us, the roles that we have and the core pieces of our purpose and how we play those out. Just being able to stay grounded in that as a clear communication is just, I mean, it's everything. Yeah, if we're not communicating right, it's all out of
Yeah, so,
order.
so like if in your acronym it's to trust in knowing and understanding your needs. So understanding your
Mhm.
needs and the willingness to understand the need of the person that you're communicating with. So that
Mhm.
understanding is what can build the trust, because it will build the capacity to reflect and to really recognize and be aware of one another's needs in order to have that trust. Because if there's not trust in a relationship,
Yeah.
it's doomed.
Well, and that brings the thought of vulnerability to mind as well, how we are to be vulnerable in our relationship with ourselves, trusting the people around us, all of those things. And the S for trust that I have is to share moments. And I think about this as a way of building connection, sharing and connecting with ourselves. And it all comes together with that reflection time, that the opportunity to remember and understand ourselves and our purpose and our why and why we're doing things. But sharing those moments, it builds the trust. It grows when we're able to have the opportunity to give support, receive it, and uplift one another. That's where the trust is built. And I think sharing those moments is a key part. And like how we were talking about like active listening, it's building the trust when we're able to share and we're able to build that stronger connection. It comes from those vulnerable moments, and those opportunities to really give strength and encouragement, along those moments, along the journey.
Yeah, I love that.
and like sharing those
I
inspiring
mean,
moments.
I watch a lot of movies, and it's I'm just thinking of one I was watching the other day, that
Yeah.
people make up stories in order to feel safe.
Mm,
And when someone's vulnerable, and we've talked about that word is open, I'll say open-hearted. When someone is open-hearted and shares their real need, their real why behind their, their behavior, or, what they're doing, the other person, all of a sudden, oh, you can see them go, now I understand.
right.
Now I understand why this is so important to you. And because I love you and want you to trust me, I am going to change the way that I react when you react that way. Because now I understand. There was a situation where a person had immigrated from Southeast Asia. They'd lived in a camp.
Mm-hmm.
Their need for safety was like huge, and it was built around financial safety, because they'd had nothing, and so their parents they brought the family over. The parents had worked so hard to make money and, provide financial security. And
Right.
this person was the person that they were, thinking of marrying, was laissez-faire,
Mm,
because he'd always had financial security. He knew he could have it. He knew he could get a job and do that. And yet he wasn't at the moment. He was kind of in an in-between stage. And she couldn't deal with that until she finally told him why. And then he understood, because she was vulnerable and she shared those moments of poverty and feeling of not being safe, equated to financial security,
mm,
where it could have just been physical security and emotional security as well, which he understood. But it was that, why is there that huge need for financial security? And then when she was able to express that, what her need was, the why, he was able to all of a sudden see and understand, and aware of, and able then to meet her needs by reacting in a different way. And I
mm.
think that's what, compassionate communication is all about. It's about that trust.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. And another note that I had on here for that part, it goes really beautifully with that too, which is, building connection is a two-way street,
Mhm.
and how it does take that give and receive, we being open, like you said, and receptive, there's another R to it,
Yeah.
that, it is a two-way street. That's how we build the connection. And, the, the core thing that I heard too is, taking that action step, which is the T. Take bold action is my T. And that's what I hear even like about the story and the movie and everything. It's like it comes to a point where action is required. And earlier today, I even heard trust is faith in action.
I've heard that before too. That's a good one.
And it's like, yeah, that, there comes a point where the step needs to be there. There is, even when we're unsure of the outcome, it's trusting ourselves,
Yeah.
believing that we have what it takes to succeed. We have the opportunity to take that leap of faith, and it can be scary, but it is that trust and the capability to know that you can grow.
Yeah. I had put down for my T was to tune in, to be present.
Mm,
And I think that, that's also maybe something that happens a lot of times when we're not taking the time to pause and reflect and understand, and then, share those connections. If we're not tuned in and present in today, because I have a client that just won't get out of the past, will not get out of the past as an excuse for everything that he does in the present. And
mhm,
what he's doing is totally sabotaging his future.
mm,
And so tuning into the present, if you want someone to trust you and you can learn to trust yourself, it's not what happened in the past. And like you said, it's not tied to a specific outcome in the future. It's how you're tuned in, taking action in the present. which is a mindset that can be a real challenge,
Yeah.
especially when you've had a tumultuous past
Right.
that's caused you a lot of pain and a lot of heartache, and you're dragging that with you to make, and I don't want to say like an excuse, but in Fearless Living, we call it a badge of honor, which
Mm,
is like a giant excuse. I'm this way because this happened to me. This is my badge of honor.
yes.
And I'm sticking to it, and it's that willingness to give that up, to let that go and live in
Mhm.
the moment by trusting your partner, trusting yourself, trusting the process, trusting God or your higher power, that you, in this moment, you can trust, especially yourself, moving forward and not getting stuck in the past. So I put tune into the present. That was my T.
Love that. Love that. That's the number one part of the OP culture code. The first one is be present.
Mhm.
And the understanding of tuning into ourselves is super important to know that we are in alignment. We are in our values. We are on our own growth path and trusting that. And right, so identify one bold action that you can take this week that aligns with your goals and your commitments, right? Think about that and how it can propel you or push you or draw you out of your comfort zone so that you can take a step in that trust journey. So wrapping it up, like recapping really quickly, the trust acronym that I brought to the table was to remember to take time for reflection and to recognize and celebrate your wins, understand your purpose and your why, share those moments and build the connection, and take bold action. So this is just like the process, right? The way that I see that you can build trust in your journey. And Terry, do you want to say what your acronym is that you came up with?
Well, I think I kind of combined ours together.
Awesome.
Take time to me is super important in order to develop trust. So I just put the pause, that's really
Mhm.
important. And you had recognize, I had reflect and remember for R. So again, they all work together. That
Mhm.
awareness, that's not an R word, but to me, that's talking about awareness. And then understanding your why, which is your purpose. And then I liked the idea of sharing moments to build connection. I think that's the whole premise of peaceful living. And then you had take bold action, and I had tune in to the be present, which you have to be present to take bold action. So I think that it's kind of a combo there with more than one word for each one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, I mean, and the whole point, right, of these conversations is to encourage you to embrace the trust journey this month, right? The whole point for these themes and these discussions is to give some different perspectives and step out of our own comfort zones, whatever that looks like for us, so that we can take aligned action and we get to watch our growth unfold, and how that happens for each one of us is different. And I want to thank you, Terry, for tuning in today and sharing your side of the trust journey and giving some really great examples and tools that have been supporting you for your trust journey. And Terry, where can the listeners connect with you? Where's a good place to connect with you?
Well, on YouTube, I have a Terry talks every day that people can, well, every weekday,
Okay.
where I'll be talking about trust this month. Because it's interesting how it's worked out so far that our 12 steps to freedom have matched the themes for OP. And then my website is Terry A. Sayre Coaching, and people can find out about everything that I do and everything that Kelly and I do as Fearless Generations. We have a Facebook page called Get Fearless at Any Age. I think that's what it's called. You
Yeah.
can tell. I'm not the person that shares the links, obviously. But I think that's called, you can get fearless at any age with fearless generations. That's it. That's the whole thing. Get fearless at any age with fearless generations. And we like to look at the bridge of life. And so we're looking at two ends, a daughter and a mother and everything in between, so that we can help people bridge from where they are to where they want to be. And that's by taking steps each way along the way in the moment. So we do 12 steps to freedom is our
Yeah.
main program. So yeah,
I love it. Great. And it's Fearless Generations probably for the YouTube channel.
probably fearless generations.
I'll find them.
Yeah, fearlessgenerations.org is also our combined website.
Yes, perfect. I'll make sure that's in the show notes for the viewers too. And I want to say thank you for tuning in to the Choose on Purpose podcast. Again, we are talking all about trust journey this month. And so this is just your reminder, keep trusting your journey and love yourself, live fearlessly, and do all things with purpose. Thank you for joining me, Terry. I am
My
your
pleasure.
host,
My
Becky
pleasure.
Plutz. Yes, thank you, Terry. And I'm your host, Becky Plutz, and we'll see you next week.